We'll start in 5 minutes. Once everyone join, then we can start the session. Please wait for a few more minutes.
Nimish, I have added you as a co-host now, and also the C2C account. Also, please contact to Chirag. I guess Chirag has something to say.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Chirag is here.
Nimish, I guess Chirag has joined.
Yes, Chetan.
Uh,
Please start. Good morning, everyone. Today's session is a little bit different. Instead of hearing from someone who has 10 years of experience, you are talking with someone who was exactly here you for just a few months ago and who have recently cracked Calfus. We have with us Chirag Belani, a final year student who has successfully secured an opportunity at Calfus. Being a fourth year student himself, Chirag has very recently gone through the same preparation phase, doubts and interviews and pressure that many of us are experiencing right now. Right? So this is not just going to be lecture, but a very honest student-to-student conversation. We will try to keep it as friendly as possible, and he will share his interview experience, mistakes, and what actually worked for him. So the goal is to understand his journey, learn from his experience, and get practical insights that you can apply immediately to your own preparations. So firstly, thank you, Chirag, for being with us.
Sure, Nimish.
So we will start with your journey. So when did you seriously start preparing for your placements?
I actually was a very pathetic guy in my first year. I was not at all worried with all these scenarios, and I came to know in my second year beginning that we have to do this things. We have to do a lot of DSA, a lot of stuff like that to get actually selected. And what all is the IT big picture? That so I started it roughly in my second year, first sem. I mean, first month, June, July, that was the time.
Yeah, that's great. And at what point did you decided you want to target for some cloud or DevOps role? Calfus, you have DevOps role, right?
Yeah, so I actually was very interested in automating the things. So when I got into the circle, I got to know about the shell scripts which I written, the bash scripts which are written to automate the commands that we wrote in terminal. And similarly, I connected with people around that only. I was been interested in meetups that were happening in Pune, community events. So in that circle only, and somehow I shaped my career in this way ki I have to go something which is not everyone is doing. So roughly almost 9 out of 10 people around you are doing that same Node, React, web development, MERN stack only. I was like, keep, how are these systems actually getting to the customer or the production or to the clients? So that journey somehow got shaped towards where I am today.
That's great, Chirag. Like everyone are doing development milestone and also you choose something different. Talking about your preparations, what did you actually start for the campus process? It was on campus, so were you already known about it? How well were you prepared for it?
So before Calfus, now I was also shortlisted for the MSCI interviews. But there was also I applied for the, of course, my resume was all with the DevOps projects I have done with the ML project. One of them was ML, so that done. But I was pretty into DevOps side only. So while MSCI interview was also there, I firstly told my interviewer that I have to join MSCI not as a web development intern, and I won't be doing all this web development kind of things there. But again, the scenarios were different there. And in Calfus, I really didn't prepare much, to be very honest. What I already did was to just go through my resume, go through all of the topics that I have learned so that I can go. And of course, in interviews also, they don't ask you to write detailed code. They just ask you what have you done. And DevOps being such a niche that you have to prove that yes, you have done it correct. So there are pretty checklists that you have to pass in DevOps. And yeah, so I fulfilled all of that and eventually got selected.
That's great. Basically, our third year students they are shortlisting for campus and they are having interviews in few days. So,
It's
this subject or concept turned out to be most important during those interviews for you.
what I think Calfus is a very small startup. So they only have around of I mean, before our batch there were around 150 employees. Just 150 employees in the company. CEO sits next to us, CFO, CTO sits next to us. So we have a lot of guidance from them as well, of course. But it's being such a small scale company and they have a lot of work. So you have to work sometimes 10, 12, 13 hours also. And the learnings that you get in Calfus is way high and way ahead of time. So I mean, being an intern, imagine being an intern. I am the person who is directly interacting with the client or handling the big scales AWS accounts, the this level of infrastructure, directly interacting with the clients and of course their clients as well, because you are serving a client and then they have another clients also. So directly communicating with them, being just an intern. So I mean, these all skills you won't get in an MNC, and that was one of the reason why I joined Calfus also. Calfus has such a great exposure of the clients they have. They won't distinguish between an intern or a 4 year or 5 year person or a 10-year employee of them. So yeah, this is all something Calfus has done very special for me. I mean, this 8 months journey that I have crossed yet is very on my learning curves very high, and yeah, looking forward.
So, for interview, what
Mhm.
they asked you about, like basic cloud knowledge, Linux, networking, or problem solving BSc
Sure.
questions.
So while test only, they have this shortlisting pattern. They go with the knowledge more. I mean, if they have a domain of Python, one domain is of Python, and in that only they ask for DSA. Rest of the domains have 1% related to DSA. Nothing is needed DSA. You just have to know the logic. You know the how the code is working. You have to know how the theoretical things are working. So if you have a plan, how is that plan going ahead? That planning, that execution is needed. Coding can be done, of course. So in interviews also, they asked me about what my projects did, how they impacted the customer, how we serve them, how were the communications, and then how do we successfully got on the mark. What all technologies we used, just basic commands in Linux and clouds. It's all about the commands. So just commands orally, nothing to write. And then, yeah, going a little detail on them. Of course, they are my projects, but nothing like DSA and college things like operating systems, nothing was needed. So Calfus is Calfus focused towards a lot on the role specific demand. So if you have applied for generative AI, you will get the questions of generative AI theoretical. We, they won't be asking you to write a code, LLM code or something like that. But you have to know which LLM you used in that project, what all your agents doing, why a agent is needed, how do you manage hallucination and all stuff like that.
Yes, yes, got it. So, if someone starts preparing now, so where should they begin? Like, few of our students are from second year, so if they are focusing, so from where should they begin their preparations?
You have to select your niche first, in my opinion, and then you have to target. So if you are very new, if you are very unaware of all the stuff going around, so select your niche, study about some domains where you have to go, where you have interest. And I won't say just to go in one direction, at least try and then figure out after 1 month or 2 months where is it working or not. If it's not working, again in the same cycle, select one another niche and then repeat. Eventually you'll find a way. I also did my web development journey early, but I wasn't able to do it.
Okay, right. So, also you talked about your project and resume. So, what kind of project do you actually showcase in your interview resume? So, all of them were of only DevOps your field, or from some different field as well?
We actually, in our third year, no, we actually did a project of uh, the CI/CD pipeline automation. So we have a CI/CD pipeline in DevOps. It comes under the DevOps and cloud field only. We just a second. Yeah, so we migrated all the manual their coding practices to automated cloud infrastructure on Kubernetes and Docker using containerization. And then we eventually wrote a GitHub action and Jenkins CI with alongside with the testing of it. So we have OWASP and Trivi, which are the container testing tools. We integrated them and we got a container security score that we called CSS, not the HTML CSS wala. But we got that, and on basis of that, we were enabling a PR gets merged or not. So if that CSS score was crossing over 75 to 80%, we only allowed then a PR merge, and if not, then you have to again fix all these changes that Trivi and OWASP are giving to the developers. This was my actually the first project. Uh, Later, I worked on a project called Devanagari Sign Recognition. So there was a school near our college itself. The students there were deaf and mute, both at the same time. So they communicate using their hands, using their something they have Devanagari sign languages. So, but these students know how to communicate using this character, using this symbols, using as they know the sign language. But for a common person like me or you, how are we going to understand this? That was the problem we considered, and we eventually end up making a model that created that they did, like if this is k and this is b, so they collectively made a word out of it, and then a voice model just says that word. So a deaf and a mute collective person can speak it. That we did, and of course, third project was of my infrastructure as code. So we have a lot of cloud infrastructure that we just create through our console screens. We have a UI screen, but who will track that? I mean, if you are creating 100 of 150s of things like that, things, servers and subnets and private subnets, everything. But if someday I forget to delete one, my infrastructure, my code bill, my cloud bill comes at I don't know how many days it's working, and it comes out to be a lot. Then we solve this problem. So infrastructure as code means you develop all your infrastructure by writing a piece of code. If you just do delete that whole code, it automatically deletes all the things that you created on your console. So no more billing, nothing. You have to take care extra on the going by the console.
These projects are actually nice for interview. But talking about Calfus interview, basically, how deeply they ask you about each project? Like only they focused on your implementation or theory behind it?
So they first of all asked me, I mean, two of my projects were of client side. So first client communication was the first thing. Then they were more on how did you do this, how did you do that. But the basic problems that I encountered were just significantly equal. You get to know this person has done it or not. So that was the major idea. But in depth they were in depth with me. They asked me, like in my CI/CD project only, he asked me, how did you implement the OWASP and Trivy? Why OWASP and Trivy? So why these tools first? There comes our research knowledge. Where why did this CSS score and all this were important for us? What were the requirements? So they were more focused towards research. Development was in the okay. But if you do research, if you have the theoretical knowledge, why this tool is needed, why this is done, why your model is hallucinating, you know the answers. Fixing that is okay. But why this? So theoretical was pretty high in my interview rather than everything else.
So, if you could improve one thing in your resume right now, what would you like to improve then?
I would actually love to do more on the communication even more, because I too feel in my client calls also I have lacked something. I lack there. Apart from that, documenting your code, documenting the task you are doing is very, very important. Documenting each and everything, because again, today you are working in a group of 4 people, tomorrow this group will be of 40 and 400 people. You won't be going to each and every person explaining this I have done this. You have to document it. You have to get the permissions. You have to get the authorities sign it. You have to see we have the go ahead to do all this. See, implementation is very easy, but all these things around it plays the role where a developer or a engineer stands. These best practices only make you the person that you dream of a manager or something, a big role where you are targeting in around 10, 15 years. So starting it from now will be very key.
So, basically, what was wrong?
Can you come again?
Like, can you walk us through your interview rounds? What
Oh,
happened in your each round?
so it's a pretty amazing story I'll like to share. But see, when I give my test now, there was a they mentioned ki the next day will come out with the results, and then after that you have to come to our off. You have to come to VIIT for the first round of interview, and then for the L2 you have to come in our offices, which is in Banir. So my test was pretty amazing. It was I know ki I've nailed it. I'll be 100%. I was 100% sure, and then immediately I came home. I started preparing. I started going through all the topics that I have in my cloud and DevOps journey. Later, as usual, I got the call. I was in the VIT, the very first person I gave the interview, and then my interview was like when I walked in, he asked me with my all the but see, my mentor, the person who was taking my interview is my mentor only here in Calfus. So he first looked at me and then he was like he's a bit nervous. I was looking a bit nervous because it's obviously my second interview. And I was like, yeah, yes, I have to do this. I can't ruin it up. Have to do it. I have to do it. And so he asked. So he saw he is a little nervous. So he offered me some water. He offered. We were talking something else. We were talking about the IPL season. We were talking about the WWE season. So just to make me feel good and have a good interview, we did that. And after that, he asked me, "Are you okay now? Start." I was like, okay. And then we discussed about all the projects, first of all my introduction, then all the projects, then what all in my college journey, just to summarize. Then again to the projects, then asking me some Linux commands. The asked me to write a Docker file, just a short 5-6 commands file, and then that's it. So that's it, because in the DevOps there were only 9 to 10 people who applied last year. Being the first one, it was like pretty good going, and then he just got it. So that was the overall structure. Then after a day or two, I got the another call for the L2, which was in Banir. I, along with my 3-4 friends, went there. We had the time zones, so they shortlisted almost 35 to 40 people from different colleges for the L2. So they have 9 to 12, 12 to 3, and 3 to 6 as time zones. They have divided. So I was also again very first here also because I was there the first. So matching that, and my interview was at 9 p.m. 9 a.m. sharp. I went there, and the L2 interview was with the company CTO. So he just considered me that this person has joined us. I'll be pretty honest with you. He has joined us, and he was asking me the questions that an intern can't even think of. Like, you only tell me, how would you reduce the size of a Docker file, of a Docker container? For me, it was like we are building it is enough. We are doing these things are enough. We are doing that is enough. But reducing the size, managing the security, that all things he was asking. I, in that interview, was not very sure about all this. I told sir, this is going way beyond from my knowledge. He was like, okay, no problem. That's what you'll be learning here in Calfus. And then a HR round just parallelly. So there were two interviews sitting in front of me. One was the company CTO and another was the company senior HR. He asked me again the typical HR questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why Calfus? Vagera. And then I did, and eventually after, so this day, na, this was actually Thursday when my interviews were done. I was sure ki the Anyways, but the results would be out by Friday. I thought of it, but they actually thought Friday also. Then Saturday, Sunday is off on corporates. So I was a kind of nervous. Was like, yeah, after all this good interviews, I mean, am I stuck? Am I stuck? Because for two or three people, now they conducted L3 interviews also, and at the end of L2, they said me to go. So I was a little bit worried. Have I did it? Have I not? So yeah,
Uh, like really, it must be nervous and that feeling you can't share right now.
exactly.
S- any other surprising questions which were asked to you? Like one was of Docker reducing size. Any other surprising questions during L1? Yeah.
So yeah, so he actually, uh, I mean, after in my technical insight, now he asked me to write a Docker to. But are you talking about L1 or L2?
L1.
L1. So in L1, he asked me to read for writing the Docker file. Just ask me the Linux commands. Just ask me how Jenkins work. Third, fourth, he asked me how do we do version control through GitHub. So we have a release tag. We have tags releases in GitHub. How do we create them through our CI/CD pipelines? Because that was something we did on our projects. So he got brief in it. He asked me a little detail on it. Also, with that, he asked me on my third project, that was my app, Terraform my app for the infrastructure as code. Why do we need it? And second being, what are firewalls doing there? We have a WAF, web application firewalls, on every cloud. What is the purpose of that, and how are they configured with CDN? It's like in that cloud stuff, but very domain specific things.
So was there any questions which you couldn't handle, which you couldn't answer it? So how did you handle it?
See, at the end, if you don't know anything about it now, you have to just uh, not highlight that. So he asked me, why did you do GitHub Actions or the Jenkins? What is the difference between both of them? You have done both of them. We said yes. Of course, we have to say we have to make her feel ki we have done a great impact, and then but alongside, we only used Jenkins for 5%. The rest of the actions were only done in GitHub Actions, 95%. But then also he came because he has a good knowledge of Jenkins that I know now. He was now he was there. So he said, Ki, why did you use GitHub Actions over Jenkins, and why did you made a choice over there? So even I didn't had the better option, but I had said, keep. Of course, that is the benefit of a client project. So you can just say, keep the client's code was on GitHub. If it would have been on GitLab and other coding tools or source code tools, so we have kept Jenkins. But I mean, most of the code was on GitHub alongside with local. So we thought GitHub Action would be a great way of going ahead, because in Jenkins you have to make your self-hosted runners. You have to configure everything by your own, but in GitHub you get the all these things done. You just have to write the CI pipeline and then it's done. That was it. But if he would have gone a little on Jenkins, I would have ruined up.
Okay, right. So, like everyone else gave interview, what do you think helped you stand out of all of them? What different you feel?
So what I feel, in DevOps there were 9-10 people. Most of them were like, uh, we are not capable enough to get shortlisted in any other domain. That's why we are applying in a domain which is a niche, which is where if anyone else doesn't apply, or where there is a no no person like who is doing great in DevOps applies, so we'll get shortlisted. But that's not the case. Companies are today more happy to have people who are skilled rather than taking anyone. So if Calfus wouldn't have find, uh, if me and the guy who is shortlist, another guys won't have been there, so then also the people who have applied saying DevOps is a niche, less people apply there won't get selected. That is one thing I learned that separates me from others was my projects, my knowledge, my dedication towards DevOps, and in the community I was very active. So I actually knew a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues now that have worked very closely with my mentor previously. I know them before entering Calfus also. So I
What mistakes did you make during preparations if you talk? Which students should avoid right now?
Mm, I actually think that restricting yourself to just one skill and doing that and that again. Like if you are in DevOps, you have to think from multiple tools. You have to see how this command, how you have to analyze the efficiency, you have to analyze the cost that is coming on the cloud provider. Doing that before it is very important because I in my third year for that I told now that client project of CICD, I got a bill of $837 from my AWS account. So doing all this, avoiding the risky part of the things. If you have to learn DevOps and clouds, so you have to see at what cost they are coming, analyzing, and then moving ahead. And that's where of course, the big picture documentation comes in.
Yes, it's for sure. And is there something like you spent too much time on a topic and that wasn't necessary?
I actually did, but it's part of my learning journey. So I actually, in my second year, I thought I'll also be doing the merge stack. I'll be doing databases very good, and then I'll be also one of them. But that eventually I got to know that this is nothing because I don't love to code itna zyada, but I am a guy who only building that. How will I know in my very early? So my interest is one at one place, and then I'm doing it in different place. So that was that 6 months, maybe that vacation second year wali winters was a kind of bit off for me. I was not seeing myself. I was not very happy with me because I was not able to do that courses, that web development courses also at very interest. Someday I used to just make some application using ChatGPT, and I used to say, "Ki, yaar, how am I such a genius?" And then, but lately I got to know this is nothing, and this is not my domain. That understanding is very important.
Yes, yes. So we'll just wrap up with our questions. There are a few more questions, like some last minute advice which you may want to give for students. Like they must be having interviews in next 5 to 10 days. So what should they focus on for current interview?
Focus just on theory. Focus on for the domains like generative AI, ML. I have a set of topics which I have discussed with our HRs that they have asked me to let all of these guys know. Or something for the generative AI ones. Focus on case studies. ML also focus on case studies. Interviewers are going to ask you case studies. How this project? Why this project? What do we do in this kind of situation? What are you planning to do next with this kind of questions would be asked to you in your interviews. Alongside that, what is the role of agents, the security, and how are you going to scale this? These three questions every domain has to do: security, scalability, and applications, agents, of course. This three is for every domain. But to be a little domain specific, you have to see where your domain is targeting in Calfus. So if you have a great generative AI knowledge and you see that there are a lot of students of generative AI, you have to segregate, and they have to segregate one of them. You have to stand alone. You have to see what all, how is your project impacting, how can you also make it to the level. Of course, not now, but you can have a plan of that, and then they can proceed with your interview in that order or that pattern, following that pattern. That is one. And second, I believe there would be a little less coding this time. They are treated on a high priority. Why this LLM, why that LLM would be there.
So this is my personal question. Like, does this theoretical questions are just asked by Calfus or for any other company? One should focus on theory more than the code particularly.
Yeah. So when companies usually have a position of software development intern. So you come there, you have your trainings, and then they allocate you the role they feel is good for you. But what about yourself? If you did 3 months of some Gen AI or ML, but at the end of 3 months you were like, nahi, I don't have to do all this anymore. I don't think this is my domain. But there you are stuck. You have to anyhow do that, do that, do that, do that, and eventually you will find a way. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but eventually you'll find a way. But if you are a person who is very selective at the very young of your career, like it was me, or as I'm advising you also, so you have to be in a startup where your role is aligned with it. So I gave the interview of MSCI. The MSCI was there for software and development intern. And at the end of interview, I asked my interviewer to, if you select me, I'll be more happy to work in the Devops journey. But then also he was a bit not okay. Like, we can't do all this and we can't do all that, because there is a lot of procedures they have to follow. Of course, it's a big company, they have to follow a lot of procedures. But in a startup where your CTO, where your CFO is sitting next to you, you have a lot of guidance, you have a lot of open area. You have to, they are continuously on client calls, the new client calls, the new client demands. These things you won't experience in an MNC. Handling client is, I think, a very big advantage of what Calfus I have learned. I have gave it all through that. But in general, coming back to your question, uh, startups usually have this kind of thing. They directly go with the rules because they don't have the time to train you. They just need the work to be done. How are you doing? The procedures are of not important. So in generally in startups, a company below 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees usually comes at the roles only, specific to the roles, and then they won't train you much. In Calfus also, you won't be to all the interns will be joining Calfus. They won't be training you very on a very high scale. They would just give you some tasks and things to do for the first 2 3 weeks, and then you will be grinded to some of the projects only. And in MNC, you will get training for 3 months, for 6 months. You will get some courses to do, Udemy courses, Coursera courses, and then come along.
All right, that's actually great advice, I think. We will wrap with our host questions. Like, we have some questions from our chat. We will continue with it for 10 to 15 minutes. So, first question we have: what do they ask in OA? Important topics, subjects, etc.
OA is actually done, I guess. OA was on Thursday, right?
Yes, OA is actually done.
Online assessment is actually done. But again, OA was also pretty theoretical, in my opinion. So this wouldn't make any sense.
That. Moving towards next question, how to start journey in DevOps, mainly sources or course do to get knowledge of it, and how much time it will need.
It will take a lot. It will take a lot of time. Select the niche. Select if you are selecting this as your niche now. Uh, Go ahead with learning and then creating. So in DevOps, there is nothing like you have to be a master. You have to be a pro before starting. You can just learn a new topic, a new thing, and then implement it on your previous work, and make that project as great project. That's what we did in our CI/CD project. So, and which journey? How do you start? How to start making source? So, for sources, you can refer to the GitHub discussions. You have a Udemy articles. You have Stack Overflow. Refer these. I won't say to refer a course or something like that. It's okay if you are doing it from courses. It's okay, but YouTube now has the majority of things covered. I mean, learn a topic, practice it, then learn second topic, then practice it, and then again try to see how are you going to integrate both of them.
Chirag, also OA is not yet done. Like I
Is it?
don't know the dates, but OA is I guess postponed or something.
Oh, is it? Okay. So OA would also be most likely similar to your interviews only. There would be case studies. There would be a lot of tool elimination and tool things like that. Third, there would be a lot of core knowledge that would be required, core domain knowledge. Majority of questions are from these three only. But I don't know if there is in Python, only Python domain, you have to see DSA also. But for a Gen AI, for a DevOps, for an ML domain, there would be case studies, there would be applications. And in Gen AI, we have a so we in Calfus, we are building actually a project that's called an Ethereum. That's a Calfus in-house project, and it is one of the biggest projects in the history of Calfus. So, and for that, of course, interns would be welcome, and that project completely is on agentic AI. Gen AI interns would most likely be joining in Ethereum only. But for this Gen AI knowledge, you have to learn, you have to see how the agents work, what all type of agents we have, categories, and then LLM knowledge. That would be enough.
OA paper will be domain wise, right?
Yeah,
Based
yeah.
on
It's domain wise. It's a metal quiz. So there is a platform of metal. They have tied up with it, and there would be uh, 40 to 45 questions. I think there would be for 2 hours. I don't know actually how it's for this time, but it for us it was 40 to 50 questions in 2 hours. Just the MCQs, no coding.
okay. Some example questions for DevOps domain. Do you remember any of them?
Go with the scaling. How do Docker containers scale? How are Docker containers secure? What are the Linux commands for this process? Go with that. Will be easy.
So it's MCQs, right?
Yep. It's fully MCQ. There is no code, nothing like that. And no multi-correct questions.
Nice. Nice. That may actually help. So next question: what is the PPO policy there? How would you compare working at an established MNC or big tech versus working at startup like Calfus?
Yeah. So uh, PPO policy for the last year we had 15 interns from VIT collective. They got 12 of them got converted, and 3 of them were uh, not part of the But PPO policy is good. You are treated like a full-time employee from the day you join, and it's pretty good. It's if you're working at an MNC, you have to see a lot of things. But in startup, there your CTO, your manager only is just near you only, and they all see the work you are doing. They all see your efforts. So there is no point of visibility here. It's all visible to everyone who is doing great work, not good, and anything like that. But PPO generally is easy in Calfus compared to other companies.
Okay. So moving towards next question. If you were to start your DevOps journey again, how would you do it?
If I have to start my DevOps journey, first I'll research. First I'll research how things are working, why DevOps is coming to picture, why are the new. Just give me a second now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm back. So if I have to start DevOps again now, I'll go first researching why DevOps is needed. Why do all these companies have this big uh, DevOps engineer, this big ma- DevOps engineer getting converted to managers and having such a great position in company? Why do? Because in my opinion, in college, we only look for stipend and for the checks we'll be getting. But why are DevOps and why are this needed? Is something we never studied. We got in a company, we got in uh, interview, but what this role is doing, why am I here, how are companies using DevOps practices in there is something I would start. Later, aligning with, connecting with most likely the people who have been working in this space from 10 years, 15 years would actually help to where should I start. And then, yes, then I can figure out in which perspective I have to go.
Okay. Great advice for someone who's just newly starting with DevOps. So next, it's you mentioned it in a way that sounded like the workload is heavy. Is the job very hectic? How would you describe the work-life balance?
Yeah, so sometimes when there is a client call or client connect me, the working hours are pretty hectic. But the culture Calfus has is full of hustle. The vibes Calfus has is very long, very good. So some long days also feel like you have done okay. So at the end, if the client communicates or gets converted, all this work is justified. So yes, pretty normal. It is ki we have a client calls. We depends again on the project that you have, but you have to stay for some time. For it's expected you will come online if in IST you have before 12. So if my manager asks me to join a call at between 10 to 12, and if a client call is near in 2 3 days or maybe 2 3 hours, then it's expected to join. For me, being a DevOps engineer there now, it's pretty hectic because a DevOps job is of course of wide support. So we have to stay in IST and PST also, Pacific time zones. But yeah, I mean that's our job is we divide. We have a good team of DevOps. We divide our times, but at scale, at times, then where we have to manage a lot of things, you have to be there. Yeah.
Okay, moving forward, you described the company as startup like. Is it well funded and how much? How would you describe its current stage post development?
Calfus actually has a lot of clients, has a lot of work, lot of clients are there, yeah, and things have well spread it out now. So according to domain, we have a lot of projects going on. There is a need of lot of work has to be done on each and every project. Yeah, Calfus is actually well funded, and current stage of company, I feel it's going to they are going to do something very good in agentic AI thing. The way they are moving ahead with the agents is, I personally think a lot on this side. Ki when I also joined Calfus, I researched, but I didn't get much of the knowledge as my seniors were all from VIT and VIIT, and there were only 2 3 people. So that time, this kind of medium connecting with them was not at all possible. But yeah, now I can say finally, Calfus would be going a very long journey. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And talking about interns, like how many interns were taken last year, and what was the PPO conversion rate?
So from VIT, they uh, took 15 interns, VIT, VIIT, and they converted 12 of them. One of them lagged in communication. I won't say the names, but one of them lacked the communication. Two of them were students who actually didn't took the responsibility, the ownership of the work they were given. So that's something. Rest 12 of them, including me, had a decent impact, and then we got converted. So I mean, this conversion you got to know in your November only. They tell you in the November either we are converting you or not, and then from December to 31st December you work as it is, and from first you are free if you are not getting converted. So you get unblocked from TPO, and then you are also again allowed in the next one.
Yes. Moving next, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate working at Calfus? Also, how difficult is it to get an internship at Calfus?
Okay. So first of all, on scale to 1 to 10, I would, as it's my first company only, I have not interned anyone else. So it's a pretty good. If you see my learnings, I would definitely see my learning, my knowledge, my growth first, and that has impacted a lot in my career. So I would go with a 9 on 10 here. Just 9 on 10 because my DevOps journey is like I have to stay awake for 16, 17 hours. I have to be online sometimes. That's the reason for that 1 point reduction, but it's completely 9 on 10. The learnings, the skills you grow, you see at the small scale startups is incredible. You won't get this in an MNC. And if you grind this for 3 and 4 years, no, this would take you very long. You'll get way ahead of your colleagues who are working in different of your college friends who are working in an MNC. That's one thing.
No, yeah. We'll just rapid fire these questions. Just answer in short. We are less on time.
Mhm.
So, how how can we stand out in the niche DevOps role, given that companies prefer not to hire freshers?
Yeah, so this was something I also encountered in my journey in my third year. But I mean, you have to start with somewhere. So just if you see, standing out would make you feel stand out when someone will listen you. When someone, when an interview, you'll get a call, you get something. Either make a resume that has some skills that no one else is offering, or something good project, some like that, till the time you get a call. But you have to nail it in your call. You have to nail it in your interview. You have to stand out by the things that no one else is doing. So security, this. See, selecting DevOps as a niche is good, but on top of it sits the security, which is the DevSecOps. That's the, I mean, I don't know, that's a trending. So security, how the things are getting scaled in, how the tenancy is getting achieved, multiple tenants. So each time you onboard a new tenant or a client, you don't change the code. You just make your code to support multi-tenant. That architectures, how are this working? Do all this before getting selected in Calfus. Also, I bet you'll crack the interview, or at least for DevOps. Which
Alright, we will take last few more questions, like which will have more scope in IT, whether it will be SWE or DevOps.
I am pretty young to comment anything on this, but I don't see one will be going ahead and one won't. Both of them will be there, but yeah, I'm pretty young for this.
Alright, no problem. Could you please, like, there are multiple questions regarding OA test. Just repeat it shortly. What specific questions, or like someone has asked DSA or aptitude, or specific domain questions.
Sure. So the OA would most likely be an MCQ with single correct option. There would be around 40 to 45 questions, uh, and most of them would be your role specific. So, in if you are in a anyways in any role, there would be questions of case studies, basic questions of what is Docker, on what is Kubernetes, tool explaining tools, commands, why this LLM, what is the latest changes you observed in this LLM, something like that, and just a very, very, very domain specific. You don't have to worry about DSA, about coding, anything like that. Yeah.
Alright, next is I am in my second year of EMTC and interested in Linux and low level programming. What career options would you suggest?
Uh, Career options, you can definitely go with cloud and DevOps. There is a role of SRE also. In MNCs, there is a role of software reliability engineer. That also you can target. Alongside that, I would say you are just in your second year. So explore, see which niche is getting fine for you. Not just stick to one and try. I mean, in your third year, you can just go with one of them because you have your college drive also there. So you're pretty tied up for the day. But if you are in your second year, explore.
Alright, next is can you please share the roadmap for SY to get into DevOps, and what resources would you suggest?
I told you have a lot of YouTube. Uh,
Next.
Everyone has the access to YouTube. Go go on, study the topics, then do another topic. Try to integrate both of them, and then go to third one. Try to integrate three of them, and then make an incremental step like that. Four, do four topics, and then make a project out of them. Do five again. Yeah.
Next is I applied for GI plus Python. If I learn DevOps or MLOps during the internship, will I be moved to that domain?
So in Calfus now, uh, a lot of from our domain, from our batch also, people were there who were selected for the GNAI, but then they were allocated into LLM project, LLM ops project, and then they eventually ended up in ML ops. I mean, you are itself not, you're very young at your career. All the interns, I would say you're very low, you're very young. So don't segregate yourself. You have to just go in one direction only. Come here, come join any good company or anywhere where you like to work, and then select where you're getting. LLM ops, ML ops, and something like cloud ops, DevOps are one side almost similar, but again, the rest 50% things you have to see. So that comes at the advantage.
Okay, one last question. Could you please tell us C2C breakdown here?
This I would like to keep it a little confidential. I mean, if anyone has something, they can reach out to me in person. But Calfus will let you know, no? Will let you know how you are getting or something. On the TPU panels, you have that option.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll wrap the session. Thank you for sharing your experience so openly. Hearing from someone who has just gone through the same journey make it much real and relatable to all of us. Once again, thank you for sharing all of your information.
Sure.
It was great experience.
Sure, Nimish. Thanks for hosting. Thanks.
And
Bye bye.
guys, yeah, bye bye. Guys, we have pinned our YouTube channel link and community links in chat box for such amazing and exciting sessions. For even upcoming sessions, you can join them. Thank you, everyone.